really, really big UFC fights. This felt as exciting of as an atmosphere or more exciting of an atmosphere than any UFC fight that I've ever been to. We got there pretty early on the card because we watched Chris Avila was on the undercard. So usually you wouldn't go for the undercard, especially boxing. I was kind of like annoyed with that. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to watch all this boxing, but I wanted to watch him. Really nice kid.
Yeah.
But it was already packed. Like people went to the fight really early.
Because at UFC events, it's not like that.
A UFC event, the undercard is empty.
Yes.
It's literally empty. Like, just the family.
Yes.
Yeah. This was not like that. This was pretty packed pretty early in the card. By the time he fought, it was probably 3/4 of the way packed. And he was like, he wasn't even the last on the undercard. He was in the middle of the undercard.
And that's interesting because, if it's not like that for UFC, where most UFC fans that go know all the fighters.
Right.
You know what I mean? They know a lot or a good amount of the fighters, but most people there were there for the main event for Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. And I guarantee most of those people don't know one other person on the card.
They definitely don't. And I don't think they even care about watching Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley, but they've created such a draw, such an event that like every single person was just like happy to be there. They were proud to be there. Like everyone was as dressed up as you could possibly be. Every girl was completely done up, crazy outfits.
Yeah.
Every guy, there's all like crazy jewelry with like giant chains and face tattoos, like all like, it was a much younger crowd, but everyone was there. Then like in between the fights, you'd go out in the hall and everyone would be like partying.
Yeah.
Like, tons of people all around. And it was just like such an event. Like if the UFC was like the same weekend, like in the same time, I mean, I think more people would, that's the only fight league or fighting event that could compete with the UFC. Like if you go to a Bellator fight, it's empty. It feels like you're at like a high school wrestling match.
Usually just the fighters, friends and family.
Yeah. Or a PFL, it's completely empty.
Yeah.
They can't give the tickets away. This was the same as like a major UFC pay-per-view card.
Wow. That's
it really
interesting.
felt like that. It was really wild. But it's funny because a lot of like the famous like YouTube, TikTok people were there, and at one point like everyone stopped during the fight and everyone was like turned around and looked at what was happening.
Oh, this was during the girl fight, the co-main event.
No, it was during when the football player fought the
fight before
player.
that. Because I remember I was watching it at home and I texted you. I was like, what's going on? Because you could just see everyone in the stands. Like you could tell something happened in the stands. Everyone's standing up, turning around. And I was like, it was so crazy that like, I'm surprised the two fighters fighting didn't stop and look.
It was insane. Every single person, no one was watching the fight, but the fight kept going and everyone was just watching what was happening. So I was in the very front row. I was literally sitting next to Jake Paul's mom and I stood up on my chair so I could see what was happening. And what was happening was those kids, the Island Boys, with like the hair.
Yeah, I know
and
who the Island Boys are.
Yeah, Island Boy. Yeah. So they were at the fight and everyone was just throwing stuff at him and like yelling at him. They are hated.
Yeah.
They're not like, some people like them, some people hate them. Like everyone hates them.
They were throwing drinks at them?
Everyone was throwing drinks at them, full water bottles, full cups of beer, just throwing all over.
And they weren't, the crowd wasn't rowdy like that.
No, everyone was having fun. But they walked in and it was like an uproar of booze and it was crazy. Like I didn't realize they were that hated. I thought there was like just like a meme.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And they're really hated. But it was kind of funny because before that even happened, when they walked in, I kind of really wanted to get a picture taken with them.
You told me, you were texting me, you're like, oh, the Island Boys are here. I'm like, you better get a fucking picture with them.
They had like security guards and I don't think they were gonna take pictures with anybody because I think they're used to everyone just like being so mean to them.
Oh,
yeah, but
well, I don't know
really
much
feel
about.
Bad for them. I don't think they're cool.
Yeah, I don't. I just know them from like we're obviously older, and I'm like I don't really understand. I was like, oh my god, a picture of like you and the Island Boys would like totally.
I know. I wish I did.
So funny, but yeah, I didn't realize they were here. I know like one of them, I think like beat up his girlfriend and stuff.
And a big thing too that I found out, I guess this week they went on Logan Paul's podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and during the podcast, they asked them a question about like finances or something, and they got really offended and just walked off in the
Yeah.
middle of the podcast. So I think like Logan Paul and his whole crew,
Kind of like people see that and they're loyal to them, so then they don't
Yeah.
like them because of
Yeah.
that.
because I was actually sitting next to at a different point, I was sitting next to this guy. And I had no idea who it was, but it was Logan Paul's co-host for his podcast.
It's like Mike something.
Big Mike.
Yeah.
He's a really nice guy. I was talking to him, and I even mentioned, I was like, oh, I was trying to get a picture with them. He's like, no, fuck that. He's like, you'd get more hate than like
Yeah.
for a picture with them. I was like, oh, damn. Because I'm like so removed from
Yeah.
like that world.
Mhm.
I just thought they were like cartoon characters.
Yeah.
Like getting a picture with like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not. They're like, it's like getting a picture with like, you know, like a bad guy.
Right.
Like getting a picture with Trump or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the type of hate you'd get. But some people a lot of people like Trump. Nobody likes these guys.
Yeah.
I learned.
Yeah. Okay.
It was pretty wild.
And then was there like a lot of people, you know, obviously there's a lot of like influencers there, TikTok and stuff. How was it like they all have like camera crews around them and stuff?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like I didn't know that, but even like through the hotel and you'd see people out at night and you'd see these big like TikTok, YouTube people, and they'd have like a camera crew, like with a camera, like following them around and like a sound thing following them around. And you'd be like, oh, who is that? And it's like not like a movie star or not like a Kardashian. It's like, you know, some TikToker. Like I met this one guy. And it turned out he had like 10 million followers on TikTok. He's a famous guy, but he was doing videos the whole time. And he was like kind of hanging out with our group.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of people just like him. It's just such a event for that type of thing. It's like they're
there one just to like the interactions with other people and just
And the
like
collabs.
Oh, yeah, collabs and then content, you know.
Mhm.
It's like kind of like the big word, content.
Yeah, content
Yeah.
collabs. But it was it's such a big, you know.
The only thing, like, you know, I think it's easy people that aren't in that world to like make fun of them and be like, they're not even good at anything. I'm like,
They are good at something.
the hustle that they do and they're on at that and they're entertaining and obviously they're good at something because people, whether you think it's stupid or not, people are watching.
Right.
And when people are watching, you
Plus the look, they all have like a special look, you
Mhm.
know, like there's so much that goes into that. But obviously I think I'm like too old for that type of thing.
Mhm.
But it is interesting though. They're nice kids. I had a lot of fun.
I always feel like when you're like around people like that are like influencers, they always seem like they're like nicer than like normal people because they're just like so into like open into like meeting people and talking to different people, and I don't know.
They're super into meeting people. Like a lot of people were like, cause, you know, because I mean, I'm not famous, but a lot of people were just coming up to me because I was like with that group.
Mhm.
And right away they like start asking you questions and ask for your social media. And,
Really?
yeah. And like everyone just wants to become friends. Like I'm not used to that.
You should, yeah. You're like, I don't know you. Don't talk to
Yeah.
me.
Like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should have plugged a podcast.
I mentioned a podcast a few times.
Good.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, another funny thing that happened at the fight. This involved Ariel Helwani.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he was sitting cage side, and I was sitting with Jake Shields,
Mm-hmm.
and Ariel was the only person in the arena that was wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So Jake took a picture of him, or like a little video of him, and he tweeted it out. And he said, Ariel is the only person in Florida that wears a mask. Thanks for keeping us safe.
Uh-huh.
Like 3 minutes later, Ariel got up from his chair ringside and walked up to us and called Jake out. He was like, why'd you put me on blast like that?
Oh my god.
And it was so uncomfortable. And I was like just sitting next to him.
Oh,
and he was like,
I'm like uncomfortable now thinking
and
about it.
Jake is like calls people out. He just
Mhm.
does. Like his Twitter is just all like calling out reporters
Yeah.
and calling out, you know, people with different political ideologies. But he doesn't like when like journalists are critical of fighters. So he throws it right back at him,
Which-
you know,
Ariel Helwani in the has a past where he is very critical of fighters.
well, maybe I don't. Yeah, I guess he probably is. But Ariel said to Jake, he was like, haven't I always been fair to you? Did I ever say anything disparaging about you or the team? And then another guy was right next to him. He's like, have I ever said anything about Jake or the Diaz brothers? And then he looked at me. He's like, haven't I always been good to you? And I was like, me? I was like, yeah, I guess. But I don't know what he thought. And then I was thinking, though, because you had a bit of a falling out with him the one time. And I was going to say, well, you've been good to me, but kind of a dick to my wife.
You should have said
I
that.
didn't say that. Yeah.
You kind of choked.
Yeah, I kind of choked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was like, what is going on? Like, but Jake does not give a fuck.
Yeah.
He just tweeted it right out.
Well, that's why we like
And
him.
they've been battling since then on
Yeah.
their Twitter. So if you guys go to either of their Twitters, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. But that's the thing I like about Jake. Like, no matter what, he's like Ariel came right up to him and he'll be like, well,
Yeah.
what?
He didn't back down. He
and
didn't say,
he's-
oh, I'm sorry.
He's like, what? I said, you had a mask on. You do. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. He's like, oh, Showtime, Amy.
Yeah, that's what he said. But Florida does not care about masks. It was like amazing. There's millions of people everywhere, and it's like COVID never happened. Everyone was just so relaxed and happy and just positive, and no one's complaining. It's a special place.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit different than New York.
Right.